Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. In this video, I will go over some scripture and personal wellness. The idea is to read one chapter from the English Standard Version 2016 Bible every day and review all 7 chapters on Sunday. Each compiled review will contain a key verse and an applicable takeaway. There is a template with this video that I encourage you all to try. When we get to personal wellness, we focus on 8 perspectives: mental, physical, spiritual, environmental, emotional, occupational, financial, and social. The idea here is to focus on a commitment to continuous improvement. There will be references to the previous weeks, but most of the focus will be for the following week. Throughout the week, I post daily reels. While some Mondays contain health and fitness, Tinker Tuesdays contain tasks and projects, Whip Wednesdays contain cars and car accessories, Tummy Thursdays contain food and diet, Family Fridays contain family activities and highlights, and Spa Saturdays contain hygiene and beauty. The goal for this content is to provide useful information that is concise and engaging. You can even listen in as you get ready for the day or before bed. Please comment any ideas you have. We are in Joshua chapter 17 through 23. There are 201 verses. Starting with chapter 17, there were 18 verses and 0 headings. The key verse, 4, so according to the mouth of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among the brothers of their father. The takeaway, God provides justly. Moving on to chapter 18, there were 28 verses and 2 headings, allotment of the remaining land, and the inheritance for Benjamin. The key verse, 6, I will cast lots for you here before the Lord our God. The takeaway, God is always your witness. Moving on to chapter 19, there were 51 verses and 7 headings. The inheritance of Simon, the inheritance of Zebulun, the inheritance of Issachar, the inheritance of Asher, the inheritance of Naphtali, the inheritance for Dan, the inheritance for Joshua. Key verse, 51, before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting, so they finished dividing the land. The takeaway, God was and is involved in the distribution of resources. Moving on to chapter 20, there are 9 verses and 1 heading, the cities of refuge. Key verse, 9, anyone who killed a person without intent could flee there, so that he might not die by the hand of the avenger of blood, till he stood before the congregation. The takeaway, God is just in his judgment. Moving on to chapter 21, there were 45 verses and 1 heading, cities and pasture lands allotted to Levi. The key verse, 45, not one word of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass. The takeaway, God does not break promises. Moving on to chapter 22, there were 34 verses and 2 headings, the eastern tribes return home, and the eastern tribes' altar of witness. Key verse, 22, the mighty one, God, the Lord. The mighty one, God, the Lord. He knows, and let Israel itself know, if it was in rebellion or in breach of faith against the Lord, do not spare us today. The takeaway, God is the leader and we must communicate our stance. Moving on to chapter 23, there were 16 verses and 1 heading, Joshua's charge to Israel's leaders. Key verse, 6, therefore be very strong to keep and do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses. The takeaway, God's instructions are clear and distractions are present. Moving on to personal wellness. In mental, I plan to form a task list to remove lingering thoughts. Moving on to physical, I plan to eat less fast food. Moving on to spiritual, I plan to devote more time to scripture. Environmental, I plan to go through a stack of miscellaneous mail and documents that have been moving from place to place. Emotional, I plan to continue processing good and bad memories. I suppose I should add making more good memories and probably inevitably bad, but that's okay. Moving on to occupational, I plan to continue testing and attending group meetings. Financial, I plan to tighten the budget on restaurant expenses. Social, I plan time with family and friends. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my perspective on scripture and personal wellness. If you enjoyed the content, then I encourage you to like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and comment on what you liked, didn't like, and want to see more of. I look forward to making this content and want it to be as helpful as possible. Keep a lookout for the daily reels. I hope you have a great week. I love you all. Peace.